All right, thank you, and appreciate you joining us here this morning. Hello, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to join us here at our Boeing annual shareholders meeting. Before I take your questions, I'd like to share just a few brief opening comments. At Boeing are deeply sorry for the loss of life in the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 and Lion Air Flight 610 accidents. We feel the immense gravity of these events, and we recognize the devastation to the families and friends of the loved ones who have perished. There is nothing more important to us than the safety of the people who fly on our airplanes. Every day, 5.3 million people fly safely on Boeing airplanes. On average, more than 2,900 737 airplanes are in the air with nearly 500,000 passengers on board at any given time. And a 737 takes off around the world or lands roughly every 1.5 seconds. Through the work we are doing now in partnership with our customers and regulators to certify and implement the software update, the 737 MAX will be one of the safest airplanes ever to fly. We've been in constant contact with our customers and listening to their needs to ensure that the fleet is maintained appropriately and positioned for an efficient return to service once cleared for passenger flights. Our teams will take an entry into service approach with every plane returning to service, which includes deploying teams to all of our MAX operators and providing dedicated real-time operational support. We also will be providing enhanced training and supplemental education materials for our airline customers' pilots. Boeing has an important role to play in advancing training efforts that support safe operations. In addition to the software upgrade that we're working on, we're also committed to going above and beyond on training. And while we focus on the safe return to service of the MAX, the fundamentals of our market and our business remain strong. I want to thank our team for their ongoing focus on safety, quality, and integrity. With that, I'll be happy to take your questions.
David Curley from ABC News. Dennis, you've said a couple of times, we own it. What mistakes do you own? You've also mentioned that you will earn and re-earn trust. Yep. There are a lot of passengers who are afraid of the MAX. Why should they trust Boeing that it will be safe with this upgrade?
David, I think first of all, again, our commitment to safety is unwavering, and we do regret the impact that this has had to passengers. We know we do have work to do to earn and re-earn that trust, and we will. I will say to the first part of your question, as we've been part of both investigations, we've been very diligent about respecting the integrity of the investigation process throughout and providing technical support. We know that in both accidents, there was a chain of events that occurred. One of the links in that chain was the activation of the MCAS system because of erroneous angle of attack data. That was a common link in both accidents. We know that we can break that link in the chain. That is a link that we own. It's our responsibility to eliminate that risk, and the software update does exactly that. So we're focused on taking care of that and getting the MAX back up and flying safely. We're going to be working very closely with our airline customers and with the FAA and with regulatory authorities around the world as we finish up the certification process on the software update and have safe re-entry into service. We're going to be diligently doing that airplane by airplane with our customers. I think getting it back up and flying is obviously a key step in rebuilding confidence. And then we'll be working with our airline customers over time to ensure they have the support they need and that we rebuild public confidence as the fleet gets back up and operating.
Was that link a mistake, a design mistake?
Well, what we've seen is we've looked at the MCAS activation, this erroneous angle attack information that came into the airplane. We've also gone back and taken a look at the design of the MCAS system itself, the original design. We've confirmed that it was designed per our standards, certified per our standards, and we're confident in that process. So it operated according to those design and certification standards. So we haven't seen a technical slip or gap in terms of the fundamental design and certification of the approach. That said, we know this is a link in both accidents that we can break. That's a software update that we know how to do. We own it, and we will make that update. And this will make the airplane even safer going forward. And I'm confident with that change, it will be one of the safest airplanes ever to fly.
Anna,
Hello.
Hi.
In the light of the crisis facing your company and in the interests of re-earning the trust of the flying public, have you considered resigning?
Well, I think the important thing here again is we're very focused on safety. And I can tell you that both of these accidents weigh heavily on us as a company. I've had the privilege of working for the Boeing company for 34 years. And we know that lives depend on what we do. We take that very, very seriously. And I've had the privilege of doing that for my entire career. And I can tell you that our Boeing employees as well take that very seriously. And so I'm very focused on safety going forward. It's important that as a company, we have those clear priorities, that we're taking the right actions, that we have the right culture. I am strongly vested in that, and my clear intent is to continue to lead on the front of safety and quality and integrity. That's who we are as a company. And I think it's really important to continue to stress that. You know, we deeply regret what happened with these accidents. It gets to the core of our company. I've had the chance to walk the factory floors in Renton, where we build the MAX airplanes over the last few weeks. I've had a chance to talk with our test pilots. I've had the opportunity to talk with our engineers. To the core of our people, they care about this business and the safety of our airplanes. That's what I'm focused on.
Mr. Muhlenberg, this is the first opportunity we've had to talk to you since this unfolded. Why did you put an MCAS system in place in the planes without notifying the airlines or the pilots? And why did you not tell the pilots that the angle of attack disagree warning light was deactivated?
Well, let me take those two questions on in two answers here. First of all, when we take a look at the original design of the MCAS system, I think in some cases in the media it's been reported or described as an anti-stall system, which it is not. It's a system that's designed to provide handling qualities for the pilot that meet pilot preferences. We want the airplane to behave in the air similar to the previous generation of 737s. That's a preferred pilot feel for the airplane, how it feels as they're flying it. And MCAS is designed to provide those kind of handling qualities at high angle of attack. So it's a purposeful design. It's something that is designed to be part of how the airplanes fly. So as part of the certification process, it's not something that's a separate procedure or something that needs to be trained on separately. It's fundamentally embedded in the handling qualities of the airplane. And so when we train on the airplane, you're being trained on MCAS. It's not a separate system to be trained on. To your second question on angle of attack sensor information, certainly we've been taking a look at some of the reports that are out, even again today, taking a look at the design of that original system. Again, I can confirm for you that going forward, that angle of attack disagree signal is something that will be standard on all of the 737 MAXs. We'll also be looking at retrofitting that on all of the airplanes, and that'll be provided at no cost. I think that's an important step forward. It's also important to understand that that angle of attack disagree signal in the cockpit is not something that drives pilot action. It's not something that we design in as a primary flight display. In the flight deck of a commercial airplane, what pilots care about are things like altitude, airspeed, heading, pitch, and roll. That's what they fly. Those indicators are in the flight deck today. Airspeed and altitude in particular are the relevant items around these two cases. Those are signals that are in the cockpit today. Those are things that provide audible warnings to the pilot as well, including things like stick shaker. And so that's where we focus on the training effort going forward.
Sir, if I can, you've said that the MCAS system, the angle of attack, connecting it to just one sensor, that met your process, and yet the fact that it's only plugged into one sensor and could fail seems really like something that should have been foreseen. When you talk about reestablishing credibility with flyers, they are reading about reports that whistleblower after whistleblower have come forward to the FAA and to Congress to say that there were problems with the certification process. There were concerns about MCAS. You have stopped short of saying that there was a mistake made in the process. How do you win back trust when there are some that feel you have a real credibility issue when Boeing has not come out and said, we didn't do this right?
Yeah, I think those are very fair questions again, and we've, again, probed on those same questions ourselves. We've gone back and looked at both accidents. we've done deep assessments of our airplane and the design, and we've confirmed that the MCAS system, as originally designed, did meet our design and safety analysis criteria and our certification criteria. Those are standard processes that have worked for decades and will continue to work. Now, that said, when we design a system, understand that these airplanes are flown in the hands of pilots, and in some cases our system safety analysis includes not only the engineering design, but also the actions that pilots would take as part of a failure scenario, right? That's all baked into a system end-to-end analysis. Now, that all said, going forward, we've identified a way to improve this, is to make it a dual sensor feed. That is a change that we're making with the software update, and I'm confident that that, again, will create an airplane that's one of the safest in the air to fly.
But you said that it's operated as designed. You couldn't have possibly designed a system that would activate 21 times, pushing the nose of the plane down to the point of an unrecoverable dive.
Again, if you take a look at the end-to-end system procedure that's assigned with this, so in the case of a MCAS failure scenario, there's something called a runaway stabilizer procedure, which is a memory item in the cockpit. If that kind of scenario occurs and you go through the checklist, and again, that checklist was published as part of the recent Ethiopian preliminary report, if you look through that checklist, it calls out actions that would be taken around power management and pitch management of the airplane. It also refers to the cutout switches, that after an activation that was not pilot-induced, that you would hit the cutoff switches. And in some cases, those procedures were not completely followed.
In all three cases, though, the pilots struggled with that process, either recognizing what was happening or implementing those steps. The first Lion Air flight, it was a jump seat captain who told the flight crew what to do. And the second one, it doesn't appear that they did that at all. The Ethiopian folks generally followed that checklist, were not able to recover. I mean, does that mean that were you overly confident in pilots' abilities given this circumstance, particularly when they didn't know MCAS was there in the first place?
Again, I'll go back to my previous comment that as we look at both accidents, and this is common to most airplane accidents that have occurred over history, there's a chain of events. There are multiple contributing factors. There are factors that we can control in the design, and in this case, that common link related to the MCAS system and its activation. We're going to break that link, and this will prevent accidents from this from happening again. That's an important statement. Pardon?
Would the accident have happened without MCAS, though? You call it a link.
It's a chain of events, right? There is no singular item. It's a chain of events. I think it's really important that we all focus on letting the investigation process run its due course. Our job is to focus on safety, not on speculation. We're going to continue to support the investigation process, and I would suggest that that is the right way to handle this in the long run. This industry is safe because of the integrity of the safety process and the way these investigations are done. It's a continuous improvement process that over the last couple of decades has continued to dramatically improve air safety. It is the safest form of transportation in the world because of the integrity of the process. And we're going to support the integrity of that process, and we're going to make sure the MAX is the safest airplane out there to fly.
Can you say anything about, a lot of airlines have lost a lot of money because of the grounding of the MAX. Can you say anything about how you're going to compensate them for that?
We're actively engaged with all of our airline customers. And again, we deeply regret the impact to their operations and their customers. I know it's difficult. I've personally talked to many of our customers, and I can tell you our team is out deployed with the customers on a daily basis. I won't comment on individual discussions by airline, but we understand the difficulties that this has caused. I will say our partnerships with our airline customers are strong, and we're going to be working together on recovery efforts. The first focus here is safely getting the MAX back up and flying, and then we'll address the follow-on issues.
Last question to Dominic Gates, Seattle Times.
Dennis, today again you've repeated this message that the certification process and the design process for MCAS was followed as per usual, consistent with what you've done. But forget about the process. The final design of MCAS was deeply flawed, and your engineers are fixing it and testing the fix today, fixing very specific flaws which are clear in the flights. So can you admit that the design was flawed? Never mind the processes, you went through it and you did the best you could, but what you came up with in the end was flawed, was it not?
Dominic, I'll go again back to what I said earlier. We've designed the MAX to have the flying qualities that were desired in the hands of the pilots. The MCAS system is part of that design effort. We have gone back and confirmed again as we do the safety analysis, the engineering analysis, that we followed exactly the steps in our design and certification processes that consistently produce safe airplanes. Now, in this case, again, as in most accidents, there are a chain of events that occur. It's not correct to attribute that to any single item. We know there are some improvements that we can make to MCAS, and we will make those improvements. But the reason this industry is safe is that we never stop on making safety improvements. We never claim that we have reached the end point. We are continuously, across all of our airplane programs, improving safety every day. We always look for opportunities to improve. That culture that's unafraid to go make safety improvements over time, that culture is what has driven this to be an incredibly safe industry. That is our commitment. We're not going to waver from that. We're not going to step back from that. We will continually look for opportunities to improve safety. That's our responsibility, and that's part of re-earning that trust that I talked about earlier.
Thank you all very much.
Sir, wasn't it required simulator training on your part? Sir, can we have a few more questions?
Sir, wait a minute. 346 people died. Can you answer a few questions here about that?
Wow, I didn't know these were going to be picked in advance, huh?
Sounds too bad. That's pretty weak.
Yeah, he did.